Previously on the Gen Z Manifesto.
In the job market, the qualifications include an experience of 5 to 20 years. As a young person, I haven't worked anywhere. I have just interned and volunteered in a few companies. Where do I get that experience?
We are educated enough, we are mentally stable enough to take up these positions.
You're talking about at youth wanaweza. Babu huyu alianza akiwa na miaka ngapi? And today is the best performing MP. Kama babu wanaweza, kwani sisi ndio hatuwezi?
We are able because we have the capacity and the ability to deliver. How are we going to deliver on some of these things like the fight against corruption? Shouldn't be a lip service, but an actionable word. How are we going to do it? Why don't we even borrow the Vietnamese drug laws for once?
The country is not devoid of youth of integrity. This country is not devoid of youth of good standing in society. They are not devoid of youth of good education or of leadership capabilities.
What are we occupying today? We need to walk into these political parties, occupy them, consolidate power, and run for those offices come 2027. We are capable, we are able, we young people.
Kama kawaida, form ni kuongea, ikutoke. Good evening and welcome back to yet another Tuesday of the Gen Z Manifesto. As we always say, hapa form ni kuongea, ikutoke. I'm your host, Miss Kahiro, and you know who else ameongea imtoke. Rigiji, the truthful man as they call him, ametuma ujumbe to the head of the state. Akamshow him and his people should sit down and decide what amount of money he allegedly asked for. Ni 10 billion, 6 billion, or 8 billion. Pick a figure, people. And as they figure the figures, students are still trying to figure out the new university funding model, which has now been reinstated by the Court of Appeal. A said victory for the president, an isolated one indeed, because he has been receiving else since he got to office. But still, comrades wanalia. Does this system really serve them? Are the loopholes too much? Today, we ask you, comrades, new funding model inaweza, haiwezi. Talk to us on WhatsApp, tuma ujumbe kama Rigiji. We are here to hear you. Linda, do you have any ujumbe as well to kusikia?
Well, a very good evening to you, Miss K. And you know, a lot is happening in the education sector. Even before we land or we begin the university funding model, let's talk about the shortage of teachers. You know, TSC today say that there's shortage of teachers. So that's a hit on the education sector. And also the Court of Appeal, despite the backlash, despite students coming out saying that this funding model didn't suit them, the Court of Appeal still gave a nod to the government to proceed with the model. I mean,
Yeah,
it's an irony. How is the Court of Appeal giving a nod to the government despite the legal battles still ongoing? So there are so many gray areas in this particular discussion, but who else better to explain this to us or even just to shed some light on what's happening on ground? We have our panelists right here who have been affected directly by this funding model. So that sets the pace for the discussion today, Ms. K.
Thank you so much, Linda. Na umetaja walimu. You know, the president alikuwa pale kwenye mlima. Na akasema he employed a number of thousands of teachers. Kwani kwa ground ni kama vitu sio kama
hawalipwi.
Hawalipwi.
Yeah.
Right.
Hiyo 6B ya Rigiji wangeweka hii side. Kama wakupea Rigiji basi wangepea walimu.
Allegedly, Linda.
Allegedly.
Kagira with the stats, semaje.
Well, indeed. Tukiongelea history ya Comrades, remember this is one of the years where we have the highest applicants were held. That is the year 2024. Wale watu ambao walikuwa wanasema they actually need funding from the government to facilitate their learning. And it was standing at around 600,000. And among all of them, the government settled on funding at least 250,000 students. So, kwa hao 250 ndio sasa wakakumbwa na kitu inaitwa funding model. Though initiated in 2023, ilikuwa ianze kuwa implemented in 2024. And the court has okayed that after zile cases ilikuwa huko as they continue, the court imesema, you know what, you can use the new model as we continue getting to listen to those people who are opposing how it's functioning.
Does it even make sense?
Well, we'll be making sense of, we'll be trying to pick and make sense of it right now. See kama comrades wanaelewa venye inawaki in the first place, and if they're actually benefiting from it, the good, the bad, and the ugly from the university funding model.
Thank you so much, Kagina. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Yondo tunachambua leo. Again, we are asking, in new funding model, inaweza, haiwezi. Please send us your feedback. Meanwhile, ocha tusikia watu kwa ground wanasemaje. Majibu.
Kama kawaida mazee, majibu wa ground na kuanga standby kila time mazee. Nauliza, hii funding model inaweza ama haiwezi? Tumerudi lecture hall 101. Tulikuwa na conversation last time kuhusu funding model, lakini tuliongea lakini haikututoka. Sasa leo hii Tuesday tunaongea itutoke. Wanaitaka Comrades wenyewe ama hawaitaki, ama pia wanataka ifanywe some few adjustments, watoi waweke, watenge waweke hiyo nyingine. Leo tutakuwa na Comrades, tutakuwa na bonga na wao na few. Kuna mmoja actually nilikuwa naongea naye tu sasa. Yeye anasema ni Comrades yako MMU multimedia uko Rongai. Alikuwa anasema yes, anasema kulikuwa nayo public participation, alishatoa maoni yake, lakini issue ni hiyo maoni yake ita count ama ilikuwa ni stories za jaba. Haya, narudisha studioni. Sasa tukagina tupate statistics, lakini tukirudi utasikia Comrades kitu atasema studio.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Majibu. In the spirit of Rigiji and Justin Muturi, tunaongea itutoke. Kagina with the stats.
Well, indeed, in the spirit of kuongea ikutoke, it's important to be factual lest you find yourself in trouble. So, looking at the numbers at how the new university funding model looks like. Initially, ilianza na at court case, where people felt like the public was not involved enough. And so the court gave the Attorney General, HELB, and the Ministry of Education 14 days to publicize a proper system for the new funding model, a proper mechanism how they would appeal. And so here are the bands. So band 1, a household is getting around 5,900, and 16% is what is the proportion of what they are being given by the government and what they have. We have band 2 who are household income is 23,670, and that proportion compared to the funding they are getting is around 18% of what they are supposed 18% of the total number of applicants who applied for this loan. We also have band 3. These are households with an income of about 70,000. These make up 18% of the population that applied for this loan. We also have band 4, which is 120,000 shillings. This household, they are getting around 120,000 shillings, and these form the majority of those applying for HELB, which is 42%. We also have band 5, which is an extra category. Those with an income household of about, or household income of 120,000, which makes up 8% of the total number of applicants. However, this does not end here, because the number of income you have, the amount of income you have also matters in terms of the money that you're receiving. For example, we have band 1, where the family will only contribute 5% of what is needed. The student will get a loan of 25%. The government of Kenya will sponsor 70% of their studies, and they will get another loan in terms of HELB now. This is for their stipend, which is at 60,000 Kenyan shillings. This is for this category. Remember, these are households that are earning around 5,000 to 6,000 Kenyan shillings per month. We also have the second band, who are getting 10%. The family will contribute at least 10% of what is needed for the school fees. The student will be proceeded a loan of 30%. The government will sponsor 60% of their education, where else they will get a stipend of at least 55,000 Kenyan shillings in form of a HELB. The two are loans, the 30% in form of loan for tuition, and 55% in terms of assisting them with their day-to-day lives back at campus. We also have the third band where the family will now contribute 20% of what is needed. Then they will be given a 30% in form of a loan. Government will take care of 50% of the needs, and then they will get a 50,000 shillings stipend. We also have another band. Now this is where they have an income of at least 70,000 Kenyan shillings per month, and these ones will be expected to cater for at least 30% of what is needed as tuition and the school fees for the campus students. 30% will be given in form of a loan. The government now will reduce what it's giving to them, and this is around 40%, and they will also receive the help or rather the loan for their stipend for 45,000 Kenyan shillings. We also have a different category now. These are those earning around 120,000 per month in the household. So the family will take care of 40% of the money that is needed. 30% will be given to the student in form of a loan, and 30% is what the government will be offering. And the government and the stipend will be at around 40,000 Kenyan shillings. So this means the band that you are placed in actually determines how much your family will have to go back in the pocket and produce in order for you to study. And remember, this is what the government is offering. However, we also, as we talk about the new university funding model, it is also important to remember that the costs, the cost of the units as they were initially have changed in what was said to update them to the current demands. And now, with the new university funding model, it will be interesting, very interesting to see for students who are doing the different courses from medicine to arts, how much they will need to part with in form of these percentages. Majibu.
Before we go to Majibu kwa ground, mimi tu niko na swali moja. Just in case, the economy inaenda vile inataka, just in case my parent akwe auctioned ki Moses Kuria, what happens? Mmenieka band 5. My parent is auctioned the next month, and you've already put me in band 5. What happens?
Going by what we have before we go to Majibu, we'd categorically look at the income that your household is getting. If it's 120, then you will have to part with at least 40% without a change. And I'm told Majibu is eagerly waiting to tell us what the comrades have to say in regards to this conversation. Kama the new funding model inaweza ama haiwezi.
Kagina na Miske mko na maswali. Haya, wacha niulize maswali basi pia mimi hapa nipate majibu. Wacha nianze na baby girl anaitwa Gracie. Niambie kwa mpo gani, na kwanza nikuulize hiyo new university funding model inaweza ama haiwezi?
Kwa majina ni Grace Wangare kutoka Multimedia University. Now in my view, the new funding model is not really working per se, because of the high cost of program. That is the elephant in the room. If at all the new funding model is to be set, let the cost of program be reduced to an amount that every student can be able to access. Let the household contributions for the students be reduced so that it cannot burden the parents and also the student, for efficiency, and so that every student can have the opportunity to study.
Campus hai walikuwa band gani?
Walinieka band 5.
Uko sawa. Do you feel like ulifaa kwa hiyo band ama walikumisplace?
Ni makosa na inafaa irekebishwe. Niko band 5 lakini sifai kukua huko clearly.
Itakuja kwa kumlipatwa 21 days za kuappeal. Utaniambia kama uliappeal pia wewe. Bazenga kuja hapa pia uniambie hiyo new university funding model. Leo tunaongea itutoke. Inaweza ama haiwezi?
The new funding model haiwezi kabisa. And even last year we had the protests led by the National Student Caucus. Now, it happened, the High Court ruled on 28th December that the new funding model is unconstitutional because of its discriminatory nature. If we are paying the taxes, we are paying equal taxes. I don't think it's fair if you start saying I'm poor huyu ni tajiri so mumweke band 1 mumweke band 5. You know, it's even against the article 27 of the constitution about the equality rights. Asa, you know, we don't see the problem with the old funding model, and we should just go back to the old funding model kwa sababu ingine inatuumiza.
Nikuulize, over 400 comrades wako stranded mazee, hawajua wafanye. Do you feel like wanafaa change vitu kadhaa ama hiyo yote kwende?
You know, even if they tell us to appeal, these appeals, you know, it's just for formalities. And you know, in this government there's a lot of bureaucracy. Na hakuna kitu ita happen. We know these games warudisha tu, you know, pia sisi tumechoka kuandamana. And what happened on June 25th, ought to have communicated that the youths of this country, of which majority are in the universities, we need a functional system. Hata sisi tumechoka kuandamana. Yes.
Anasema pia amechoka kuandamana. Watoe hiyo kitu. Wanakusikia bro. Acha niongee na pia wewe jina lako na pia uniambie hiyo new funding model inaweza ama haiwezi. Jina.
Okay, my name is Lucy. Of course, the new funding model haiwezi. Si kitu tunafaa kurudia again and again. I think in the status quo, we have an issue. There is a clear disconnect between the ruling class, policymakers, and the people. We clearly know there is a problem, and we cannot continue discriminating students. Yeah, we understand that there are people who cannot get this money, and we still want to push these things to we want them to work. The tendency of the government to come and pull everything down just for the sake of we want to do things differently, we want to do things differently. If help wasn't working, why didn't we choose specific things that weren't working within the help system and work on them and correct them, instead of coming up with a completely new system that clearly is not working? It's not a representation of the population, it's not a representation of what we are as a society. Can we find something that can work for all of us and people get satisfied? Yeah.
Acheni bonge na bro pia wewe nikuulize swali moja briefly, inaweza ama haiwezi?
My name is Ivan. Your funding model haiwezi because of two reasons. One, the metric enye wanatumia kuput or place our students in those different bandwidths can't work for us students in this sense. If a person ni orphan na akona, if one person ni orphan na akona, you know, ako in a position ya could get that amount of money, and there's another person mwenye ni orphan na hayuko in a position of ako anaweza jilipia that fee and all that, watakuwa wamekwa kwa band same, and yet that is not the intention enye this funding model was for. So the idea in itself was wrongly placed and that kind of stuff, but what we are vouching for is to focus on the old model vile ilikuwa, and they should try their level best to at least rectify the places zenye hazija work in that particular funding model.
Aya, kamvoka ameanza kuanguka tao, lakini acha tumuvie side nyingine. Ni bonge na makomrades, nasema hiyo convo haiwezi kamilika bila makomrades mazee. Hata mvua ikinyesha tutaongea tu bado hii story. Acha tukuje side nyingine. Nadhani hapa iko fiti. Grace, nataka kuongea nawe kidogo briefly. Umesema mlipatiwa 21 days za kuappeal, si ndio? Uliappeal?
Bado sija appeal. I'm really looking for the documents that are necessary that will land me in the correct band. Juu yenye niliekwa, it was really not the one. Bado sija appeal, but in the 21 days I must appeal.
Alafu kulikuwa na hiyo story ya public participation. Ulipeana maoni na do you feel your views will count?
Maoni tulitoa, maoni tulipeana.
Ulipeana maoni gani?
Maoni yangu ilikuwa that the cost of program irudishwe chini. Na hata wakiweka hizo MTIs, let them increase the MTIs, hizo means testing instruments, so that they can favor all students. Yeah.
Aya, Bazupi niongee na wewe. Kulikuwa na public participation, do you feel like views are must today na hata wazazi zita count na kutakuwa na any difference?
Unaona kitu happen kwa hiyo public participation. A few individuals are paid 500 shillings to attend those public participation meetings. So wanaenda hapo kusifu the new funding model. Kila mtu aliikataa. You know, at times, you know, we are forcing things in this country. Na tunajua haifanyi. It's not working. Turudi to old funding model, because I have classmates who mtu juu aliekwa wrong band, inabidi anaenda kufanya mjengo. You know, he's missing classes.
Unasema kuna makomrade kanjwa do ende waseme hiyo funding model iko fit.
Comrades wanapewa 500 wanaingia hapo KICC. Lenana Hall.
Unajua nani mwenye alipelekwa huko?
That's what happens. You know, those meetings, watu wanalipwa, so you just go to support. You know, that's what happens. Hizi vitu hata najua wao umejionea, but it's just that mambo inaweza chamka kidogo. Lakini tunajua that's what happens.
Sitaki nichemkie mimi. Kuja hapa, pia Bazenga kuja hapa hivi. Pia unaambie tu briefly. Kuna hiyo cost ya causes, kuna mwenye amesema cost iko juu sana, na kuna makomrade wenye wamekuwa forced kuquit some of the causes. Wa msela alikuwa anafanya engineering, amequit engineering, ameenda kufanya course nyingine ndogo labda yenye ni a bit cheaper. Kuna makomrade wenye unawajua wenye wamelazimika kufanya shit kayo?
Oh my god, no. No, just because I'm not within the uni environment at the moment, but I'm pretty sure there are.
Utaongeleleaje story ya hiyo cost ya hizo causes?
The thing is, hata tukiongelelea cost, you see, when I come from a family with 4 people, even if my parent has like maybe a good amount of money and as a raise 400,000 maybe for a single person, but what about a parent who has 4 kids in uni and all of them maybe are taking engineering courses which maybe cost 400,000 whatever for the 4 years? It's still not fair. It doesn't make sense. You see, for me, when I was in uni, it was easier because ilikuwa subsidized. The government catered for a certain percentage. So it was easy for my parent to raise that amount, the remaining amount. Compared to now, things are just way worse.
Aya, bado kwa kampo, unajua komrade yote mwenye labda amelazimika kuchange course juu ya hiyo funding model?
Simjui kwa jina, but I've heard story.
Wako kadhaa.
Wako kadhaa na ni wengi sana. Many people are quitting from the sciences, the big prestigious courses, to doing Bachelor of Arts, such stuff. So naona ni vibaya juu people had dreams, but because of the cost, their dreams are shattered because the government is not coming in to help. Yet that is their responsibility. Kwa the previous funding model, the government catered for a percentage of 80% for them. So people are left to pay like 20%. In our case, it's very different. You're left to pay like 40%, which is a very huge amount, and many people cannot actually afford. So something needs to be done about the cost of the program so that every student can actually get into doing the prestigious courses like engineering, medicine, and stuff.
And journalism.
Yeah, and journalism.
Funding model inaweza ama haiwezi? Sitaki kusema inaweza ama haiwezi. Makomrade wamesema, nyinyi mko na majibu. So nawapeleka mapumziko mafupi kutoka ground, lakini tukirudi conven endelea studio na tutajua leo ndo tunasema tutoke kama inaweza ama haiwezi. Watoe yote ama wafanya few changes. Miss K, naomba nikurudishie break bado. Miss K, chukua usukani.
Right. Majibu nimekusikia. Thank you. We are back in studio. Now, there's a lady there amesema kitu ya maana sana. Amesema that there's a disconnect between the government and the people. Na hii imekuwa claim tangu times the finance bill tena SHA. I wonder if the people here in studio, Linda, kama they think the same. Again, the question of the day is, university funding model inaweza haiwezi? Let's hear some feedback from you guys at home. Comrades, new funding model inaweza haiwezi? Sylvester Koech anasema, accepting funding model is accepting to pay fees from primary to secondary to university. Okay, Sylvester. Chege Murimi says iko sawa. Chege anasema iko tu sawa. I wonder if others here in the studio share the same sentiments. Tutasikia in a minute. John K.E. anasema no one complained about the previous funding model. Beneficiaries of the previous funding never complained. New funding model could be a business. Okay, John. Now that's watu pale home, and again tuko na Comrades hapa kwa studio, and also Kagena is there with his panel. Just after this short break, we'll hear from the people in studio.
Back to Mount Kenya. After the bitter fallout with his former deputy.
Mimi naweza kukufanya one-term president. Usipofanya hii, usipofanya hii, usipofanya hii, nahitaji bilioni 10. Wewe unajua bilioni 10?
President William Ruto faced the mountain, and the mountain welcomed him.
Na tungetaka tumhakikishie asiwe akiambiwa ati asikuje Nyeri. Sisi tunataka akuje tena na tena.
President Ruto's stall of Mount Kenya, the promised goodies.
Hiyo hospitali ya JM imetengenezwa 48%. Yani imefika karibu nusu. Sasa ile nusu ingine mimi nitatengeneza, nitamaliza, nitaweka equipment.
The bad.
Ukimwona mwambie Mheshimiwa Rais, wewe ni kingpin wa Kenya. Lakini kwa mlima una wenyewe.
About mentoring young politicians. I haven't seen any syllabus.
You fire Ndindi Nyoro, that's how you mentor him. You fire Joe Nyoto, that's how you mentor him.
The ugly. This week on the People Dialogue, back from the mountain, only on K24 and Kameme TV.
Kwa taarifa tendeti na za kuaminika na matukio moja kwa moja kadri yanavyochipuka, jiunge nasi kwenye mchipuko wa K24 kila siku ya wiki saa 5 hadi saa 7. Jina langu ni Busara na Aman.
Mchipuko, weekdays 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. K24. It's what's on.
Have you watched K24? We would love to hear from you. Send us your feedback on what you like and what you don't like and why. You can use any platform to reach us. We can be reached on Facebook, Twitter, and WhatsApp.
And welcome back. This is the Gen Z Manifesto kama kawaida. Again, hapa ni kuongea itutoke. Tumesema today we are in the spirits of Ricky G and Justin Muturi hapo kwa kuongea itutoke. I don't know, Linda na Kagina, who is copying who when it comes to kuongea itutoke, because these people have been talking. Anyway, let's hear what people are saying back at home to honest some feedback from y'all. Okay. Again, the question is, new funding model, inaweza, haiwezi. Okay? Right. So, Matt Moore anasema haiwezi. There is iniquity in allocation to COOPs, placed students in private universities. Government is a joke. Simon Bato Seda anasema haiwezi kabisa. Short and sweet, haiwezi kabisa. Andrew Morethi anasema hiyo funding model haiwezi. Majority of the people anasema haiwezi. I don't know if your parent is from the government, anasema nini akiwachisho. Frank Lusaba anasema this new system haiwezi kabisa. Better the old model kutoka Kitengela. Anonymous anasema my parent earns a gross salary of 40,000, yet I'm placed in band 5. Is that really fair? Kagina with the stats. Is that really fair? Is it? He will tell us in a minute. All right, so that's the feedback for now from y'all. Linda.
Well, you know, something that has come out so prominently today is about the equity, about how these funds are allocated to different families, and one of them just said on Majibu's side that if this is going to be implemented, then the programs, the pricing of the programs needs to be reduced, right? I don't know whether you share the same sentiment, Martin. Kwanza ulieka band gani, na how do you feel about the band that you are located?
Personally, my name is Martin Matthew. I'm a Gen Z leader at Upcoming Leaders of Kenya. I'm also pursuing law at African Nazarene University. I was placed at the 5th band.
How do you feel about that?
It's not right. Personally, it's not right. Number one, I come from a private university. It is the problem of the government that placed me in this private university, and allow me to say it here clear, that KUSIPS placed me in a private university. Then, as we proceed further, they are not providing, the help is not giving me upkeep. What happened to inequality? What happened to the right to education under Article 43(1)(f) that guarantees every student or every youth the right to education, and it must be accessible to all? Yes.
And perhaps let me ask this beautiful lady right here, Imani, just share your sentiments about this particular topic today. How do you feel about this funding model, and has it affected you, or are you comfortable with the band that you are placed in?
I first want to express the fact that the basic role of any government is to provide education, health, and security. So it's very embarrassing, first, for us to start arguing about prices of education, because we are gambling with the future of the nation. We are gambling with whether or not we're going to have sufficient doctors in 20 years. We are gambling with whether or not we're going to have sufficient lawyers. We're going to have sufficient... It's embarrassing, and that's my sentiment. I'm not comfortable because my siblings and I have a gap of 2 years. So if you look at how my parents are going to provide for this, with the new funding, we're 3, right? And if our courses require 400,000, but even if we're earning like 120,000, where is that placing us? If our income is 120,000, where is my parent getting the money to give 3 children who are having courses that require 400,000? Yes.
So it's a fundamental right. Education is a fundamental right. Perhaps we can take it from you. What do you feel about this particular funding model? And also, has it affected any of the activities that you normally undertake? Because I know it's not specifically pegged on education or learning. There's also where you stay, accommodation, and many other things.
Okay, if I start by my name is Edward Oloch. I'm from a technical college, that is Nairobi National Polytechnic, and also a founder member of Young Political Association. And I came here just to talk about this new funding model, which has really affected Comrades wa Kenya. It has really affected them, and in terms of placement in bands, the MTI thing is it's not giving, and we need to just.
Why you say it's not giving, expert?
Okay, it's not giving, like, how comes a person is placed in band 5 yet the salary of his parents or her parents is like 40,000. How will she or he able to raise the remaining amount to pay for the school fees? Yet maybe it's on a family of over 5, and 2 of them are maybe in a campus. So how will you be able to pay for the fee? Because they have really illustrated there that it will be the band 5 people will be paid. The scholarship fee will be almost 40% will be for fee. Yeah.
Wow.
So that one will really affect even the technical courses such as medicine, engineering. In fact, there was a time I spoke with a Form 4 leaver, and he scored a B+, and he was telling me, hey bro, how will this thing work? Because it is from now to September, you will apply for KUSIPS. How will you realize that you have been placed in certain band?
Wow, good question. Good question.
How will
right
you
there.
realize?
Thank you. Thank you. I wish we had more time.
Thank
I hope we'll still get time. We'll get back to you. Ms. K, you're very close to one of the comrades right there. Perhaps you can ask that question as well.
So just picking from what he said, is it giving for you, this new funding model? Is it giving or not? Inaweza, haiwezi, and what band were you placed in? And was it fair for you?
I think in the Kenyan country that we sit in right now, it is very sad that on the basis on which someone is going to pay school fees, what determines is the amount of salary that someone earns. It means that someone cannot even have a leeway with his own salary. It means that the people who are trying to work hard to ensure that at least their pay slip at least escalates or gets to somewhere, then it means that as much as we are trying to get and deduct it from school fees, we're also trying to do it in other areas. So it means that at least our parents and the big stakeholders of this country and the business people should be given the leeway with their own salaries. We should not be debating about what you earn and what you should pay. At least the basis of a school fees should just be uniform. It should not be on how you earn, on which extent you are, on where you are, because they say that education is an equalizer. But trying to figure it out specifically, then I don't think it's an equalizer. Because if you see on the way they are doing it, then I don't think it's an equalizer. If we have to pay, if you have to deduct school fees on the basis of what you earn, then I don't think. On the question of the band which I was placed, I was placed in the worst band ever.
Which is which?
That is band 5. A band that you wonder on how a comrade can be placed at band 5. And yet they have said that for you to be at band 5, then a parent must be earning more than 120,000 shillings. Now think about a parent who has 2 or 3 kids in the university. You are letting him pay 40% of his salary to school fees. Now, if you double the 2 children that are there, that is already 80% out of a salary that is over 100. So does it mean that you're going to consume 80% to school fees and then remain with 20%? Remember, you cannot have 2 children in the university and lack other children who are behind you totally. That one cannot work. You cannot also lack pending bills. You are going to work, you have to travel, you have some people you're looking at, there are others who are not your children but you're taking care of. So I wonder on how this basis really wants to work in a country like this. So I think it's very difficult. It's a point that I think the government should solve such. And there is one student out there who said that there is no connection. And it is true, the connection is not there. Because we tend to think that public participation is only political. We are forgetting that public participation can also be engaged in sectors like education, sectors like health, sectors like agriculture. And therefore, we only think that public participation is for political processes.
Well, they called for public participation. Did you, ulituma maoni pale?
Yes, we tried hard as students because we cannot see something and then we fail at least to defend it to our best.
And what were your recommendations as we wrap up?
My recommendations were, let them fix the problem of the old funding model and ensure there is a better and sustainable education system in this country.
And even Ms. K, before you throw it to Kagina, there's a trend here. Allow me to do this. How many are in band 5 in this particular panel that we have, in this particular set?
I am in
band 5. Band 5? You have a sibling in band 5. Which band are you? Which band are you, Imani? Band 4. So it's 4 and 5.
Right.
Well, I don't know what that means.
Question marks.
Yeah.
I don't know. Kagina with the stats, he might tell us how many people, according to the statistics, wako band 5 as he begins with his panel over there, Kags.
All right, I'll be introducing my panelists here. So starting from the very left, we have Danaro Michael, who is a student currently at Nazarene University, formerly a president in the same institution. So maneno ya Comrades ameelewa. They have opened up to him. Wameongea imewatoka. Sasa pia akuje aongee imtoke. And also joining me right here is Joseph Ochola. Pia yeye ako band 5, which means they, or rather the parents, or rather what is called the family, will provide 40% of what is required. He gets a loan of 30%. The government sponsorship is 30%, and he gets around 40,000 for an academic year. So today we will be just interacting with him and getting to know how sufficient, or rather how befitting is he in that band. So starting with Danaru, hii funding model inaweza haiwezi?
To be honest, this model is very, very discriminatory. This model literally violates the right to education. Someone across the audience talked about how education ought to be an equalizer for our institutions, for our people as a society. Even in schools, we learn that the essence and benefit of going to school is for you to be able to be equal as one in terms of intellectual capacity, in terms of work and agency. But this education model, this new funding model that's about to be introduced is very problematic because one, it's not inclusive. The idea that they want to provide a certain model that, that is able to actively accommodate everybody based on their household incomes is very ironic. I might even border on sarcasm itself, because what do you mean? Because you earn this certain amount, then you're supposed to be getting this amount for you to be able to afford to study. This impacts this pool, one, even those are the topmost band and those are the bottommost band. All around are all equally affected. The vulnerable people, the ones who cannot afford anything, you're telling them that once you're done with education, at the price of this, your whole life or half your life, you're going to be paying back this loan to us. That is very wrong. Two, you're telling those people who are considered less needy, you're claiming that just because they are less needy doesn't mean that they are financially secure. You basically point out that because they are less needy, they have the ability still. When you're less needy doesn't mean that you're financially stable. Living from paycheck to paycheck is an actual life thing that happens in our society. With the increased 18% VAT that's about to be introduced into the country, the purchasing power of households is very, very low, minimal as it is. And you're telling someone who can afford just a single bread during the day that they will not be able to get this anymore because they have to sacrifice that for this certain band because they earn something. That's very wrong.
All right, we'll be coming back to that. But Joseph, they placed you are placed rather in band 5.
Yeah.
What band do you think you belong to?
Personally, what I know is that we should be, most of us, those who have been placed in different bands, we should be lower than the bands that we have been placed. We should be either band 2 or band 1. In conclusion, what I mean, in conclusion of my first point of statement is that band 3, 4, and 5 should not be for a Kenyan citizen child. Because as a father who is, okay, when they say that somebody who is supposed to be placed at band 5 is somebody whose parent is earning higher than anybody else. But when you come to look at this thing at economic level, somebody whose parent is earning much contributes much to the economy. And when you contribute much to the economy through taxes and whatever, you are paying tax in order to achieve government services through education, health, and even infrastructure. But what if you are going to seek for education through your child, you are sending your child to school to go and sort for his education, then you are being told that now you are very rich, you should not get this government service at this smaller cost. Your parents should pay more. Now, when we look at it at the context of the issue of which they are saying AMT, I don't know, MIT, whatever.
Yes, means testing instrument.
Yes. Now, this one is very discriminatory. Take a look of band 1 student at any university. You know, everybody have read about the documentation of the new funding model, and I've known that a band 1 student is that student who is coming from a very poor background. So whenever you're working in the campus, the current WASU chairman once said that while you're working in the area in the university, every corridor, every corner, they will point out at you and say that this one is a band 1 student. He comes from a very poor background. So even when you are doing exams, they will say this one is a poor. So it reduces because he has said that education is to make us. It's one of the factors that is making us bring about equality. But now, when you are in a university, you have already been placed into bands according to uwezo wako. The earning capacity of your parents should not define whom you are or your future. So my take on this is that the new funding model should be scrapped, and the government should not ask us anything about it, because it is not our ability to determine what the government should do. The government is a system which consists of so many technocrats, so many people who are supposed to be looking into any system that the government is going to implement. So they should not throw the ball onto us, now go tell us that let's do public participation, yet during that time that they were about to implement it, they did not call the students or the people who are being affected. Our parents were never involved in this, and told that, now we're introducing a new funding model apart from the other one that is going to replace it. Now tell us, what should we do? This is our documentation. This is how we are going to run it out. But now, they never did that. They're doing it when things have messed up. My friends, some of us who are very brilliant, those people who should be joining medicine schools, they have left school. Even people will tell you, they have left school, people have dropped, and there's no future. Yet we are the people who are being called the future of the country in terms of economy and anything else. So,
looking at you, for example, you're taking law at the University of Nairobi. Sure. The costs for the course is roughly 104,000 per year. That I assume it's for the 2 semesters.
That is according to this new funding model. Generally, totally, the course should cost 260,000 before the government joins in. But after tearing out to government contribution, family contribution, you're supposed to, according to the new funding model, band 5, like me, is supposed to be paying a total of 104,000 per year.
So the 40% is the 104,000 per year.
Sure.
And the 40,000 that you get in form of a stipend, does it cater for you personally?
Okay, 40,000, it means the whole year. The whole year we have 2 semesters. It has been divided. The year has been whole academic year is divided into 2. You have semester 1 and semester 2. Every semester, that 40,000 is divided into 2. Every semester you should receive 20,000. But long time ago, even in the earlier funding model, the latter funding model, you could see students education could have been free, because you could take part of your help could cater. Even the whole help could cater for your fees. But for this case, for example, the one in band 5, if you use your help now, let me say that now let me try to use my help to cater for my fees. 20,000 per semester, you're supposed to pay 52,000 per semester as fees. But you're receiving 20,000 as an upkeep. So that means that upkeep does not help at all.
In terms of should you use it as school fees, it cannot
It cannot cut. You are going to use it, and you are still going to remain with the negative deviation of 32,000.
All right, Danaro, you've had his experience right here. Does this reflect what is happening with other comrades as well from that end?
You see, out here, ask any comrade out here, they'll tell you the narrative of Queen Ama. Watakwambia vile every day they'll have to actually skip a meal, which is now considered a norm. For it to reach a point where your son or daughter is in school and they have to consider it a ritual for them to skip a meal, not because they can, but because choices, circumstances literally limit them, means that things are already dire as it is. And for them to introduce this funding model and tell us that, one, if in this certain band, you're supposed to be paying this amount. This band, this model actively targets the students. The former band, money was deposited into the universities. The former band was university-based actively. Yes. This band is student-based. Therefore, meaning the money doesn't even go to the universities anymore, it goes to the students. As a student, if you're misplaced in a different band that is not akin to your own merit or capacity, it means that you're not going to be able to go to school. Because if you go to school, the first thing they'll ask is, where is the money? Remember, it's no longer university-based. So even the funding for the universities is slashed. As it is, we have myriads of universities that are still ongoing strikes. Tuke is here, Egerton is here. With this current ban that we have, with the current model that we have, they still have these strikes. Now you're telling me that you're telling students who might not even continue in school to go to these schools that are expecting money from these students to pay these lecturers. You're putting a whole cycle of problems among various parastatals and institutions and people in one class. Very wrong, because now you're telling this university, if you don't have money, we can't help you unless those students give you the money. You're telling these students, if you don't have money, you're not going to study either way. You need to have that money. Very wrong, as you said. Secondly, and as I conclude, this ban literally says that even those who are continuing, if you apply to it, you're literally going to be dropping out of school in the due course. Why? Because as it is as a country, nothing is guaranteed economically. Tomorrow someone might lose a job. Tomorrow someone will be laid off. We've heard apparently how many companies this year alone as it stands are laying off workers. Now, for someone who's in band 5, their parent tells them, I can't pay for your school fees this year. What are you telling them? This band, as it is very elitist, very segregational, and very discriminatory.
There's something that you've mentioned, which Joseph had earlier mentioned, in terms of, placement in the bands is bringing classism, where, band 5, like Joseph right here, feels a bit privileged compared to those in band 1. Is it something that you can actually see, or is it an assumption that people are making?
It is something that I can see. It's not an assumption. None of these words that are being presented here are assumptions as it is. These are things that people are actively seeing change and alter the impact of when they're supposed to graduate. As you can see, the people who are graduating this year are the most problematic people in the education system, because you can see how they suffered literally when they are entering university, even when they're transitioning into high school. And now you're telling them that if you can't afford this amount of money, you'll be able to graduate. And the people behind them as well, you're telling them that as well. This whole model actively tells you that if you're in band 5, 1, if you have the capacity to actually pay for this, it means that you are very rich, you are okay, it doesn't affect you. This narrative that perpetrates is down the top class, the elitist, the first class people are not in any way supposed to be bothered by the problems down here. Secondly, and most importantly, those who cannot afford this in this 5th band are now being told that if you cannot stick in this class of people that we have here as a top echelon, then drop away, go away. That's what they're telling you.
All right. The court gave 14 days for the ministry and the Attorney General to provide a leeway, or rather a clear way for how someone can appeal. For a yes or no answer, Joseph, have you made an attempt to appeal?
Yes, sure.
Have you gotten a response, yes or no?
No.
All right. We are going for a short commercial break right here, but this conversation on the new university funding model continues right here on the Gen Z Manifesto.
Kwa taarifa tendeti na za kuaminika na matukio moja kwa moja kadri yanavyochipuka, jiunge nasi kwenye mchipuko wa K24 kila siku ya wiki saa 5 hadi saa 7. Jina langu ni Busara na Aman.
Mchipuko, weekdays 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. K24. It's what's on. Back to Mount Kenya. After the bitter fallout with his former deputy.
Mimi naweza kukufanya one-term president. Usipofanya hii, usipofanya hii, usipofanya hii, nahitaji bilioni 10. Wewe unajua bilioni 10?
President William Ruto faced the mountain, and the mountain welcomed him.
Na tungetaka tumhakikishie asiwe akiambiwa ati asikuje Nyeri. Sisi tunataka akuje tena na tena.
President Ruto stole of Mount Kenya, the promised goodies.
Hiyo hospitali ya JM imetengenezwa 48%, yani imefika karibu nusu. Sasa ile nusu ingine mimi nitatengeneza, nitamaliza, nitaweka equipment.
The bad.
Ukimwona mwambie Mheshimiwa Rais, wewe ni kingpin wa Kenya, lakini kwa mlima una wenyewe.
About mentoring young politicians, I haven't seen any syllabus.
You fire Ndindi Nyoro, that's how you mentor him. You fire Joe Nyoto, that's how you mentor him.
The ugly. This week on the People Dialogue, back from the mountain, only on K24 and Kameme TV.
Pindi yanapochipuka,
tunachipuka nayo,
tunachambua,
tunapashana,
tunakutaarifu na kukuza ulumbi kwenye majukwaa tofauti.
Mimi ni Fatma Chidagaya, nikikuambia ni sahihi, nikikuletea ni kamili, na nikisimama nasimama na ukweli wa kusadiki.
Nami ni Sami Adika, kijana mwenye ari na fikra mkururo. Habari si hadithi, ni uhalisia walipo jambo.
Katika fikra tunduizi
tunakujuza,
tukifichua
na kuchambua.
Dafina ya K24.
Jiunge nasi
Fatma Chidagaya
na Sami Adika papa hapa K24.
And welcome back to Gen Z Manifesto, the biggest show in Eastern Central Africa. Well, this is a place where we discuss pertinent issues affecting the youth. And today, it's the Gen Z university funding model, a pain in many people's heads. I won't say the other thing. But, well, Miss K, picture this. There's a parent who's sponsoring a kid. Not her kid, not her child. Sponsoring. And also, there is his own children.
Right.
Will that person, because he's able to sponsor that particular student from a needy family, will automatically be put on band 5 by virtue of your being sponsored?
Well,
it begs more questions than answers, right?
Right.
And Kagina's conversation really set the pace for this discussion. And I'm just wondering, if you are given a chance to redesign this particular model, what will you do? You know?
Right. Also, Linda, the guy over there, he spoke so well, and he said, watu wanainama in the universities, they're missing meals, right? Akasema pia the amount they are given for help, 20,000, ukiamua uitumie kwa fees, unabaki with nothing. Na bado, hautafanya exams because you've not cleared your fees. So imagine, umeinama, na bado ufanye exams. So you're not
with the cost of living.
What are we doing? Right,
well,
right.
Allow me to just ask this gentleman right here, if you're to redesign the model, what would you omit and what would you add in this particular model?
The mic is over here.
Yes.
Then we'll give a chance to
So personally,
later.
if I'm in a position of power to redesign help, number one, or the first step I'll do is to reduce the cost of these programs. I was doing a rough mathematics. A lawyer requires or needs 2 million shillings to be able to do law into completion. Furthermore, medicine, you require 2.8 million shillings to be able to do medicine into completion. So the first one is to reduce the cost of programs, so that even if I'm funding these students with this help, the core value or the core principle for help is to ensure that education is accessible to all without discrimination. And that is what I'll do personally. But if you look at the current new funding model, it is like wanalipisha deni. The free education we got in primary education ni kama wanalipia hiyo deni in campus.
Umefikiria sana.
It's not good.
Ume-overthink.
Ame-overanalyze.
Well, allow me to just ask him, right, because it's just next to me.
Right.
Okay.
If you were to redesign this particular model, what is the good, the bad, and the ugly for you?
Okay, my name is Nicholas Kiplagat. For me, if given a chance, there is nothing like redesigning. I'll scrap it off completely.
Why?
Because it is very discriminatory. Why am I saying so? This model focuses so much on socio-economic indicators of the people. It focuses so much, I think someone who came up with that model actually has got a very big, robust appetite for the salaried people. Because, you see, you get that anyone in a family, you can get in a family, one person is salaried. But that person educates around 5 people. So that model does not focus, does not help someone who has got a job. Number 2, it is very discriminatory because, like my friend there had said, that it classifies students according to their background. So, in short, it advertises the background of where that students come from. So, lastly, this model has got it is flawed and shambolic, because it has got no scientific basis. What has it been used? Because you can currently, that person who is in band 5 should be in band 1. That person who is in band 1 is in band 5. I can give you an example. I have a nephew who studies at Maseno University. He does law. This nephew has got the parents are not working, but he has been placed in band 5. He told me today, because I had talked with him today, he told me he has got a classmate whose father or whose uncle is the governor of a certain county, but is in band 1. So that tells you there is nothing which has been used to choose to place this person in band 1, band 2, or 3. It has got no scientific basis. So in short, I'll not remodel it. I'll scrap it off completely.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. K. I don't know
Linda, yes,
what that panelist has to say in regards to this. Would you scrap it, or what are the things that you think you would redesign?
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Ronald Ochieng Lila, and this issue of the new funding model, if you'd ask me what would I do if I was given a chance to redesign the new funding model, I'll simply disband it. I'll disband the new funding model so that we can go to the old model. Okay. First, we have this thing called the means testing instrument. What I've been asking myself for quite some time is it a machine, an AI machine? Is it someone? Is this MTI somebody sitting from a place and being like, okay, this is a person, this is the condition of the family background, what? And then, my real worry here is that if most of us, from the look of things, I've realized that most of us here are placed in band 5. Then this MTI is not working because it's reverse. Or maybe the person placed there to work on the MTI is not doing the right thing. Maybe they have take someone who maybe did something else and placed in a scientific place whereby they are dealing with this MTI and they don't know what to do. So we find out that this MTI is not quite reliable. Okay. On this issue, okay. I have a cousin who is placed in band 5. In band 5, yeah. And looking at things, the parents are peasants. I can say peasants. You know, peasants now.
They're not well off.
Not well off. Yeah. So you find that when you place them into the band 5, you are definitely killing the family, because how else? There are other siblings who will be depending on this help. And now that, okay, that means that the parent will have to pay, is it 40% of the salary? What if the salary is less than 20,000? Because most peasants, you find out that they can only raise hand to mouth. They have hand to mouth job. That's the thing they are running. So if you put them in band 5, that means that they are really straining to educate the children.
So is your cousin in school as we speak?
Yes, right now. And I'm talking because...
And how is he surviving then?
That is where we are now. Survival so means that she will definitely have to use the money to pay the school fee. And again, in university, you cannot sit for exam when you have not finished the school fee. And if this help is to be given 20,000 or something less than that, you find out if you pay this, okay. The courses also vary with the fee. Some courses are over 300,000, and you find out that the government is paying a certain amount. You find that we have the household contributions, we have the loans, and we have the government contributions in terms of the stipend. If this money, which was given in terms of help, now used to pay the school fees, you know, the comrade there is going to be like, they are going to be hungry. They are eating nothing because the money is already used to pay the school fees. And then this calls for this new funding model to be disbanded because it is banding. They are doing what is called banding. We are going to disband it so that we goes to the old form of help disbursement. Okay. By the way,
as you wrap up.
As I wrap up.
What a familiar
I
way.
wish we had the time. I
Yes,
wish we had
yes,
time.
yes.
Okay, I'll rush. Looking into it, you know, I've been following closely this thing because, you know, this help belongs to us. And we demand for it. We are not requesting the government to give it to us. Okay, so the last time I checked, when the court dropped and then said that the people should appeal, I checked on the help status. It was said allocated, and the amount allocated is not the amount which was the amount which was allocated is not amount which she received in M-Pesa.
Thank
the
you.
amount was so huge.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Imani, quickly, would you briefly tell us, would you redesign this or would you disband it?
I would disband it.
Whoa.
And I feel like I think as a population, as citizens, tunachezwa. Because if we just break down carefully, band 5, over 120,000, we are clearly looking at anyone who's earning, most people earning above 120,000 do not have one child.
Right.
What are they using to pay their rent? What are they using to pay their bills? What is the government expecting for this person to remove from their pocket to pay fees when their rent is 60,000 because they have 6 kids? Ata hana nyumba yake, ata hana gari. Mnataka mtu achukue over 80, probably akope, ndo alipe fees. Tunabebwa ujinga because the government knows this is impossible. Then how do they even bring it publicly to the people? It's not making sense to me who sat down and agreed, by the way, if you're earning 120K, you should be able to pay. It's not making sense.
Do you feel like this will hamper even the duration at which you're supposed to be completing your university?
It will hamper to complete, it will hamper to enter, it will hamper to even exist in the university. Kuinama already is hard. I can't even do my exams if I haven't completed the fees. Where am I getting the money from? Where is the money coming from? The economy looks as it is. I can't even buy bread.
So Imani, what are we telling the president? Tunajua alikuwa pale kwa mlima akasema this is a victory for him, you know, that Court of Appeal imesema iende. Is it really a victory for him, according to you?
It's not a victory. It is not a victory because let us understand this, that genuinely speaking, the problem is where the government is getting the money from to pay for education. And we can understand that our country is in economical problems. But we can see people like Rigiji last year, what was it, remodeling his house with 650 million Kenyan shillings.
Right.
So isn't the problem allocation of the funds? Where are we prioritizing our funds if we can't have education at the top, because these are our futures? If we can't have our health at the top, where are our funds? Where is the money going to, if not to our futures? Because I think genuinely, if we have a whole deputy president spending 650 million Kenyan shillings to remodel his house, but we're asking the person who's earning 6,000 to pay for fees.
Make it make sense, right?
Make it make sense.
Kagina, we want to throw it to you, yeah? Na ni kama ukuwa anasema gava imebant. I don't know if your panelists think the same.
Well, all right. Let me
And
start.
also, Kagina asked them whether they would redesign this.
Very important.
All right, let's start from there. Joseph, would you redesign? If you would redesign, what would you fix?
Okay, thank you very much, Kagina. I will start from where Ms. K has said something to do with government imebant. Imebant because they're allocating, they're not prioritizing their funds correctly. Where do they say that somebody who cannot sustain himself in the university be placed in a band that cannot help him at all? So if I myself, I were the person who was given that opportunity to do Samu Karabati in the funding model and the so doing, education should be free. That's the only thing that I should say. It can be free only if the government prioritizes itself, its expenditures very well and its economic plans. The whole process, everything to do with the education should be free. Why am I saying that? From the statistics, our CS, Ministry of Finance, Mr. John Mbadi, says every day that Kenya loses 2 billion. He says that it is in the records, media doesn't lie. 2 billion per day. 2 billion per day is a total of 60 billion in a month. Now tell me, education help, issues of help that we are having the other day that students were not yet given their help. Help only requires, 34 billion. And they say plus the fees, plus what the UFA gives the student, the UF gives the student in terms of fees, it is 80 billion. Now, in a month, we have lost 80 billion. We have lost 60 billion. And we require 80 billion to do with education. Why can't they try? And Mbadi, the solution that Mbadi gives is that when we are embezzling 2 billion, let us now cut it off to 1 billion. Very archaic way of thinking and looking for solutions. So the only way we can do this, let us structure ourselves inside the government itself. Let Mr. President William Samoei Ruto structure your own government and try your level best. Make education to be free. That is when history will be very happy with you. Education can be free. And another thing again, before finishing, what the government is doing, back in my village, we will say that sauti ya wengi ni sauti ya nani? Ya Mungu. Why is it that the government is forcing us into something that we don't want? The judiciary has said that new funding model is unconstitutional. And the executive has really entered into us, infringed the operation of the judiciary. And now we have the executive, it's the same judiciary. Judiciary has become a jurispesa. Legislature itself cannot also make good decisions. So we are saying this. We have seen those trends. The judiciary saying that something is unconstitutional, then after some well-given time, it becomes constitutional. So which precedents are those? What are we following? I'm a legal counsel. I'm a lawyer. I know I will be a lawyer. Because but if they don't reduce the fees, I don't know where I will go to. But the point is, things that have been declared unconstitutional, let us not force them to become constitutional. The issue even to do with the affordable housing, such issues, they became constitutional. So don't force us to do this. President William Samoei Ruto, you are also once a beneficiary of government system in supporting education. What you are doing is like you are removing a bridge after you have crossed to the other side, in which you are going to be like a wizard. You are going to be like Murogi. Tunakata hiyo maneno.
Well, Danaro, what would you fix?
Kagina, if the government doesn't want to understand numbers, doesn't want to understand figures, then let it understand impact. This new university funding model is a funding model that was sold to us on the basis of equity, reforms for equity and help. But in reality, it's basically sold to us and providing us with exclusivity and exclusion for very many people. This university funding model is pointing to us that if you're only rich, that's when you're going to get any opportunities. If you're only rich, that's when you're going to access any of these spaces. As it is right now, even those who want to claim that they are rich are still slightly struggling as it is. That's a fact. This economy is biting even the rich ones. Those who can cushion themselves are being told that this funding model is only for them. What about me? What about you? What about them? What about how who's listening to me? The reality as it stands right now, Kagina, is that this new university funding model should be disbanded. Everybody has pointed out where money is. We're even telling you here the solutions. I mean, come on, seriously. We cannot take you to we're going to take you to the river and then still force feed you and make you swallow it and understand that that's what is needed for us to be better. It doesn't work like that. The government needs to see that killing education right now as a priority in our country is going to widen a very huge generational gap. And it doesn't only affect the students, the government should be clearly understanding of that. That not only the students who are going to be messed up with this funding model, even the parents, and most probably, not most probably, but factually, even the universities. If the university staff and faculty suffer, these university staff and faculty are the ones who still pay and help the government in running these institutions and everything out here in the education ministry. If they are messed up, so are we. So in the end, these are a whole hubbub of problems that you want to introduce to everybody. Disband it and let us focus on fixing the initial model that was there. That's my advice.
All right, Joseph, there's something that you mentioned on segregation, or rather classism, you know, dividing people along the bands that they belong to. How do you think this can be fixed?
We can actually, what I was saying about the issue to do with making everybody to be the same. Education is one of the factors that are trying to make people to be the same. That is why even in high school, even in primary, people are on uniform, but in university it's a bit different. But now when it comes to issues of supporting education in university, everybody needs to be the same. Even the last funding model, the latter one, you saw students were placed the same. There was no issue of subdividing them or grouping them according to whenever they come from. So the only way this can be done is by making sure that it has been leveraged and kila kitu ikawekwa the same way. And lastly, education can be free. Nothing else like bringing, I don't know, bands, some nini. Education can be free.
All right, Danaro?
Closing remarks. You can't claim to introduce this new university funding model as a reform to the education sector and then actually exclude and provide a lot of exclusion to majority of the people out there. That is not reforms. That's injustice as it is. The government needs to see that these kids, these youth out here, they are the face of today as it stands, not tomorrow anymore, today as it stands. You pushing us down and telling us that we cannot make it and holding and gatekeeping every access we need for us to make it in life is not fair to us as a generation. What do they want us to remember them for? Oppression of the youth?
All right. Well, indeed, those are some of the sentiments from Danaro here and Joseph just weighing in on the issue of the new university funding model. Linda, you've heard some of the solutions that they've provided, and probably even as I hand over, because I don't think this will be coming back to me, they say media is the society's watchdog. And here on Gen Z Manifesto, we will not stop barking. We may not bite, but we will not stop barking until the society is entirely fixed. And on the issue of help, we've had this as the second discussion of the topic. And I hope that those who are supposed to hear, those who have ears, let them hear what the people have to say.
Well, you know, Kagina, what Martin right here said, the governments gave them free education, free primary education. Then when it got to the university, they had to pay. That sounded so much like a bitter ex who wants to take back what he gave you, or what she gave you. That's a bitter ex right there. Do you agree with me, Ms. K? But well, totally. Even before we conclude, I mean, one last quote for me. Education is not preparation for life. It is life itself. Kill education, you kill these lives. My name is Linda Koske.
Thank you so much, Linda. You have really given us wisdom tonight to finish this show. And I will give my own sentiments as we close the show tonight, yeah? Here are my 2 cents. You see, you may go ahead with the gimmicks of impeaching and firing whoever in government, allegedly giving too much power to your subordinates, launching already launched projects, allegedly paying people to clap and give you shangwe na vigelegele. Truly, the bar is indeed in the gutters. But gambling with education is where we should agree to draw the line. The Comrades the main stakeholders of this project have continuously raised concerns over this model. You finally decided to do things constitutionally and called for public participation, but gave Comrades little time for this. Well, to whoever it may concern, yeah, consider this show tonight a true, unbiased, raw, and unfiltered public participation. The Comrades say the new university funding model, haiwezi. So, kazi kwenyu wakuu. I rest my case. That's it from us today. I'm Miss Kahiro, and this has been the Gen Z Manifesto.
Yeah, they call me Tony Mwirigi, aka the Celebrities Host. Kama ni tamu na lama na kama ni chungu na tema, catch me live every Monday to Friday in the morning on Interactive Show for a fun-filled conversation, trending topics, celebrity interviews, music, and